Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from the Daily Signal dated January 23rd. And it says, branding Trump fascist is name-calling and historical illiteracy, which the reason I'm doing this video is because I know I've made other videos like this before, but we're just going to kind of keep, throwing this out there to tell all the idiots that, you don't really know what this particular word right here actually means. So let's go ahead and dive right into things. It says, if you really believe former Vice President Kamala Harris and her immediate allies, the United States has just inaugurated a fascist dictator, Donald Trump, as President of the United States. It says, now you might fail to appreciate the gravity of this moment after watching former President Jimmy Carter's funeral and a friendly Trump yucking it up with former President Barack Obama, the paragon of progressive politics. Given Team Biden's Trump as Hitler narrative, Obama's cordial interaction with Trump, democracy's supposed existential threat, was puzzling. But what do you know? There's not much, according to the leftist cognoscenti. After all, we have it on good authority that the American electoral majority is made up of garbage, and that many are deplorables, the kind of folks who, over a 3-year period, were unable to grasp then-Rep. Adam Schiff's compelling evidence that Trump was secretly colluding with the Kremlin. And now Senator Schiff, we're still waiting for the evidence that Trump was colluding with Russia. So anytime now, we're waiting for it. It says, today, in the wake of the 2024 election, most of us remain trapped in ignorance of the imminent fascist threat. Democracy dies, not so much in darkness as the Washington Post insists, but in stupidity. So perhaps we could all benefit from a little education on the topic. There is, after all, rich political science literature on Italian fascism and German National Socialism. Like communism and socialism, fascism is collectivism, where the individual is completely subordinated to the group, and the rights of the individual are subordinated to the absolute rights of the group, with the group being identified as the people, the party, the nation, or the race. And while there have been various fascist movements in France, Spain, Eastern Europe, and even the United Kingdom, the clearest expression of fascism in power, a marriage of theory and practice, was manifest in Italy and Germany in the 1930s. I'm sure you know who we're talking about here. It says the Italian regime of Benito Mussolini and the German dictatorship of funny mustache German guy. Beyond the primacy of power exercised by a single leader in a hyper-nationalist single party, the fascist agenda in each country was shaped by the unique historical and cultural conditions in each country. In fascist Italy, for example, anti-Semitism and racism were minimal, and Mussolini's efforts to achieve anything like totalitarian control was undercut by persuasive Catholicism, loyalty to the monarchy, and Italy's rich family-oriented cultural life. For a governing program, however, the German and Italian variants share some basic ideological assumptions, notably the following. And here we go. So for the folks out there saying that people on the right are fascist, well, let that thought just go and die in a corner somewhere, because they say the state is absolute. Okay, that is fascist. So it says, in his book, The Political and Social Doctrine of Fascism from 1933, Mussolini was explicit. So the foundation of fascism and its conception of the state, its character, its duty, its aim. Fascism conceives of the state as an absolute in comparison with which all individuals or groups are relative. Likewise, on November 8th, 1933, Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, declared that our party has always aspired to the totalitarian state. The goal of the revolution must be a totalitarian state pervading all spheres of public life. Yeah, sounds very much like right-wingers, doesn't it, leftists out there? Or, I don't know, maybe it sounds more like you. So it says, detailing the German variant of fascism in Behemoth, the structure and practice of National Socialism, it's from 1944, Franz Neumann summarizes the fascist doctrine. In theory, the state has unlimited power. It could legally do almost anything. It could expropriate anybody. Next section here says corporate power consolidated in service to the state. So here's kind of a key point to fascism, and you'll probably recognize some of this from, I don't know, the period of 2021 to 2024. Who was in power then? Wasn't Donald Trump. So this fascism, which comprehensively suppresses personal, political, and economic liberty, is sometimes described as the ideology of the corporate state. A central goal of fascist economic policy is to consolidate the production of major goods and services into large corporate cartels, a form of monopoly capitalism, eliminating those businesses, especially small firms, that government central planners consider inefficient. Germany's corporate titans, often to their bitter regret, backed Hitler. This broad policy of corporate consolidation and hostility to free markets was a feature of both Italian and German fascism. In his book, European Fascism from 1968, S.J. Wolff, a professor of Italian history at Britain's University of Reading, reports that, under Mussolini, the tendency of capitalism towards monopolies was to be encouraged because it increased productivity and so the strength of the state. Likewise, describing the Nazi Party in Behemoth, Newman observes the federal minister of economics was given the power to create compulsory cartels, to compel outsiders to attach themselves to existing cartels, to prohibit the erection of new enterprises and the extension of existing enterprises either in state or capacity, and to regulate the capacity of existing plants. No indemnification is allowed for damages arising out of such acts. So, again, it might be hinting at what happened in the last, 4 years or so, but you should be able to get the point from there. In terms of what I'm referring to, it says command economy, central planning, price controls. The fascism, central planners not only prescribe the quantity and quality of the production of goods and services, but also the permissible limits of profits and targets of investment. Such tasks require a large, powerful, and deeply intrusive government bureaucracy. On October 29, 1936, funny mustache German guys, Germany adopted a 4-year plan designed to increase industrial production in preparation for war. In tandem with this production control, the Nazi regime adopted a comprehensive system of wage and price controls. In the language of the plan, according to Newman, a federal commissioner for price formation had responsibility for the control of price formation of goods and services of every kind, especially for all needs of daily life, for the whole agricultural and industrial production, and for the transportation of goods and commodities of every kind, and for other compensations. As Newman further notes, the Nazi price control regime governed rents, transportation rates, fees for doctors, dentists, and lawyers, admission tickets of theaters, cinemas, and concerts, dues to organizations, postal fees and railroad fares, commissions and school fees, and the whole sector of agricultural prices with the exception of labor, which is subject to a specific condition or to a specific regulation. Hitler's Germany enforced its granular economic price control system with tough criminal penalties. On June 3, 1939, violation of the bureaucracy's price controls, either by intention or through negligence, was punishable with imprisonment of up to 5 years. So again, everything for the state. It says, needless to say, the National Socialists in Germany destroyed the independence of the German trade unions and created a labor front to execute the regime's labor policy. In Nazi labor policy, Newman concluded the worker has no rights. Sounds like a fun place, right? So the state must exercise total social control. With fascism, there is to be no personal or social life outside of the state. Commenting on the Italian variant, Wolff observes, all private freedom, whether of individuals or associations, was only acceptable if approved by the state. In Hitler's Social Revolution, Class and Status in Nazi Germany, 1933 to 1939, which came out in 1966, David Schoenbaum cites Robert Ley, head of the German Labor Front, declaring in 1938 that one's only private affair was sleep. There are no more private citizens. The time when anybody could do or not do what he pleased is past. Does that comprehensive social control, of course, ended up racializing the laws governing marriage and the family, promoting abortion and sterilization of the officially undesirable, and the euthanasia of the mentally and physically unfit, replacing childhood education with ideological indoctrination, while engineering the mass ethnic cleansing of society, primarily millions of Jews, and the unspeakable horrors of the Holocaust. So that paragraph there, does that sound at all familiar like maybe one political party in this country that's not called Republican? Sounds kind of like what they are, what their ideology is very much in support of right now. So it says, apologies, anyone. It says, Trump has clearly articulated his foreign and domestic policy agenda, including safeguarding freedom of speech and religion, freeing up market forces, reducing the regulatory overreach of the executive branch, and taming the excessive and too often abusive power of an unelected bureaucracy. Given the crystal clarity of his policy agenda, it's hard to imagine anyone seriously charging Trump with being a fascist. That's mere name calling, and reflects little more than a gross ignorance of what fascism actually entails, a deep personal hostility to the man, or a simple politically motivated malevolence. There is nothing inherently fascist about drawing large and enthusiastic crowds to campaign events at Madison Square Garden or anywhere else, about basing American foreign policy on the primacy of American national interest, about pursuing energy independence to lower Americans' gas and energy costs, or about enforcing democratically enacted immigration laws. If a word can mean anything, logically, it means nothing. Back in 1968, H.R. Trevor Roper, a prominent British historian, in an essay on the phenomenon of fascism, noted that the word fascist is either precisely dated or a meaningless term of abuse. In the case of Trump, that calumny has spewed from the mouths and pens of practitioners of gutter politics, leftist university professors, Hollywood bubbleheads, that's a good word for them, historically illiterate campus radicals, and cable news commentators. Now that Trump is back in the White House, after surviving 2 assassination attempts and achieving the most impressive comeback in American political history, he has taken his sacred oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution and see that the nation's laws, including its immigration laws, are faithfully executed. Not to worry. Chances are Trump will do a much better job upholding the Constitution than his predecessor, and hysterical liberals will not be herded into concentration camps. Yeah, whoever started that is just an idiot, because you even see on like Reddit and stuff that there's a lot of folks that are like, oh my god, what's going to happen to me? It's like literally nothing. Just calm the hell down. Many never really believed in their own propaganda anyway. Meanwhile, the media elites and the leftist politicians who have poisoned our politics with irresponsible fascist rhetoric should apologize to the president. Yeah, that'll never happen, but I get the sentiment of what you're saying. So it says, but don't lose your private sleep over it. They won't. So this should be a pretty good primer about fascism and what it actually is, as opposed to, just people like AOC running out there and saying the word, and it's like, you don't know what that word means, do you? What is the quote from The Princess Bride? Like, I do not think that means what you think it means. That's kind of what it is. So, again, Trump's not a fascist, and the stuff that I read here should be a lot closer to the other guy that ran against Trump and, or was going to before he was forced out, and what a certain cackling joker wanted to do, as opposed to anything Trump did. So, do you agree with this? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.